The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is presented by WinBet. WinBet is now live in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Tennessee, and Virginia. From boosted same-game parlays to live in-game odds, WinBet has what you need to win. Bet $100 and get $100 at winbet.com or download the WinBet app and start winning today. State restrictions apply. We're also brought to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Final Four Watch Party. This Saturday, sweat out your bets and win prizes with Ryan, Sean, and Colby over on youtube.com/sports gambling podcast. Welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Tuesday, March 28th, currently 11:04 on the East Coast. Here to break down the 6-game schedule on Tuesday night in the association. But joining me on the Tuesday episode today, you guys know him as the newest voice of the NBA Gambling Podcast. It's the man, the myth, the legend, Delonte Smith. Delonte, what's going on, my man?
Hey, man, pretty good. Looking forward to some of these games. They pretty good schedule, I think. So hopefully we can get on the right side of them.
Yep. A couple good games here tonight. We'll dive into it as usual. But also joining us, you guys know him as the voice of the Tennis Gambling Podcast, the NFL Gambling Podcast. Soon, the season starting of the WNBA, and of course, here on the NBA Gambling Podcast, it's Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on, buddy?
And nothing much, doing well. Looking forward to going through today's card. I know yesterday's card was pretty, I don't want to say uneventful, but it was a bit of a tease because Embiid ended up not playing. And that was the main matchup that people were interested in. Did that officially sway you into supporting Jokic? How big of an impact do you think that had?
It was funny to see because I think yesterday, as soon as the news kind of came out that he was not going to play, I feel like the odds kind of shifted in favor of Jokic, to win MVP. I personally, me and Terrell talked about these yesterday. I think everybody thought that this would be a statement game for Joel Embiid to, get that MVP. But for whatever reason, precautionary was the official designation for why he didn't play yesterday for the calf injury. But yeah, I think it did again. And we kind of knew at that point, like, if you did not immediately bet like Nikola Jokic, like PRA or triple double, you probably missed out because he put up another massive triple double. So right now he is the plus 105 odds-on favorite to win MVP. Joel Embiid's not too far behind. It's still at plus 110. But for me, it did sway my opinion a little bit on MVP. What about you?
I think it kind of had to, didn't it? I mean, I don't want to say that Embiid was fully ducking him because I'm not sure how much of the load management decisions are actually made by the players at this point. And Embiid's battled some injuries recently. He's been trying to play through them. Having said that, he did just have 40 and change against Golden State. Then he played on a back-to-back against Phoenix. They got buried, though, so he didn't have to play that much. And then they decided to not play him when they had some off time leading up to the Denver matchup. If you were going to rest him, then why wouldn't you just rest him in the Phoenix game? Like, that part I don't understand. That was the back-to-back. So I don't understand the actual decision to rest him for that game instead of the game against Phoenix. But either way, I think it has to play a factor. But then again, Jokic put up a massive stat line. They won. They didn't cover, so gamblers still weren't very impressed by Jokic, but that's a separate point. But I do think Jokic should win, in my opinion. I've said it for months, but I don't know. I feel like a lot of people kind of hold it against Jokic for the defense, which makes sense because defense isn't very good. But I do have a couple issues with that. The first issue is the fact that defense has really never mattered in the MVP award race, and now they're trying to move goalposts to make defense matter than it ever has before, just because they want Embiid to win. Second of all, didn't Embiid just give up 17 and 13 to Bismack Biyombo and nobody's talking about it?
Yep. I feel, I mean,
I'm going to throw it out there. Biyombo goes for 17 and 13 and nobody bats an eye. I feel like that's a little bit weird.
Yeah, but I don't think like voters would look at, hey, he's not playing defense. That the fact that he's just averaging a triple double for the season as well. So
I'm kind of being facetious, but the point is Embiid hasn't been an all-world defender either. I think he's actually been a bit underwhelming defensively if you look at the advanced numbers as well. So holding it against Jokic, but the main argument is, well, late in games he gets torched. That part Embiid can hold his own a little bit better. But we can stop pretending that Embiid is some all-world defender and Jokic is a bottom 5 defender in the league. The disparity is not as big as you think it is.
Yeah, I agree with that. Lonte, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, man, I bet Joker at plus 250. It's in the article I wrote for the SGPN page, maybe 2 weeks ago or maybe a week and a half ago. I just thought that he shouldn't be that big of a favorite. What Joker's doing offensively and literally his advanced metrics are so far ahead of anybody, any player in the league by a decent margin. I mean, I just don't think that he should have been that big of a favorite. I guess it had something to do with the losing streak that the Nuggets were on and how they were playing, but still, he was playing pretty decent, I thought. And
yeah,
I think this stretch right here is going to just put the nail in the coffin for him to have his third. I mean, Embiid, if Philly is smart, I mean, I know he wants the MVP award, but you got to kind of save him. Got to kind of save him for the playoffs. I mean, because anything can go wrong. I mean, he's got a large injury history. So one wrong move, one wrong step. We see him fall. I think he falls the most of any 7-footer I've ever seen.
Anthony Davis. Is he 7 feet? Or is he 6'11"?
I think he's 6. I think he's 6'10", 6'11". But
okay.
But that too. So yeah, I know he wants to win it, but I factor that into my handicap of why I bet Joker at plus 250. I mean, anything at plus money right now, I still would take. I mean, obviously just for a smaller amount, but I mean, Joker's you guys said it. His numbers are unreal, and down the stretch. I mean, it's a recency bias award. Most awards are. If you've seen with the Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes thing, it's just recency bias. So I think the voters pretty much going to sway with Joker down the stretch, especially if Embiid doesn't play in half of the games that are left.
And I think a big reason that a lot of people were also tempted by Embiid, in addition to Jokic having the losing streak, Philly was also competing for the division because they were tied with Boston at some point, and then Boston kind of went on a run lately. I believe Boston's up 2 games again. So you can argue for seeding purposes, if that's going to be a tiebreaker for anybody, Denver's going to be the 1 seed. They've been the 1 seed for about 3 months. That's not going to change.
Even
Philly's
in that
probably the 3.
Yeah.
Probably.
Boston, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Boston now has a 3-game lead over
it's 3. I thought it was 2. Okay.
Yeah, Sixers now. And then, I mean, in the West, like you mentioned, it's pretty much Denver. They have a 3.5-game lead over Memphis, but, I don't think they're going to squander that lead. But, yeah, I mean, would be surprised he has a favorable matchup tomorrow night against the Dallas Mavericks in Philly tomorrow, does Joel Embiid. Now, if he goes out and drops a 45-50 piece tomorrow against them, those odds are probably going to sway again about him being favored again to win MVP. So, I mean, if you were smart, you probably could have picked up both of those guys for MVPs at a 3-to-1 price or better over the last couple months. So, we'll see how it transpires over the last couple weeks here in the association. Anything else you guys want to mention from last night? Scott, anything else?
I was just going to say quickly on the MVP race, no offense to Giannis, but I don't think he's got a chance to win it. People can keep trying to drag his name in it. I don't think he's got a shot to win. Yeah. Maybe that's just me. Any other takeaways? I know Terrell was right about Minnesota. I thought Minnesota would beat Sacramento yesterday. A lot of pressure for the Kings trying to clinch a playoff spot, and Memphis got it, and Minnesota got it done. Yeah. Good for them. Kyle Anderson might be my favorite role player in the league, or borderline 6-man candidate of the year, just because I think that he's a really, really good player for somebody who's just extremely underrated. And I feel like he's been a very good prop guy for double-doubles because he can get you rebounds or assists, and he's had a couple triple-doubles this season. But he's been very good, so shout out to Minnesota for actually being the 6th seed right now. Congrats. Yeah. Besides that, Utah, I think, is basically an auto fade at this point. They can't guard anybody, and at this point, they've kind of punted on making the play-in. I don't really understand the strategy of trying to go that far into the season trying and then suddenly waving the flag, but it seems like Utah and Portland, I'm not sure either is going to win a game the rest of the season.
Yeah, those two have pretty much punted on the season. I mean, we've seen it with Portland. They're top 3 out of 4 out of the top 5 guys are not playing for the rest of the season or sitting out games. We know that Dame is going to – we talked about it, that they were probably going to shut Dame down sooner rather than later. And they did after that Utah game. Well, I was going to mention something that's completely just forgot about. But Lonte, anything else from last night?
Yeah, no, not really. It's just that what Scott's going back to what Scott said about Giannis. I think Giannis is. I mean, any other year, like if Giannis hadn't won an MVP or two, I think he's a two. He won back to back, right? Did Giannis win back to back?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So if he probably like had a year in between his MVPs, he'd probably be right up there. But voter fatigue and all that. I mean, he's on the best team in the East by a wide margin. Like they're probably the prohibited favorite in the East and probably in the NBA, if I'm not mistaken. The last odds I've seen, I think that reflects that. But like, remember, like he's playing with Middleton, who's not. I mean, he's getting back to 100%, but he's not like at his best or what we're used to. And Boston started out really hot. I think they're like 21-4, 20-5, something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean now, like Milwaukee's like comfortably ahead. So, I mean, I just don't think Giannis is going to get the amount of credit. Now, rightfully so. I guess the two guys are playing slightly better than him, but I mean, we all know Giannis is pretty much still the best player in the NBA.
Yeah.
When you say comfortably ahead, it's only 2 games, and I believe they have a head-to-head matchup later
in front of
week.
Boston.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
It's 2 up, but they do have a head-to-head matchup, I think, later this week where that actually is going to determine the tiebreaker as well. So it might seem like they're ahead by a lot, but it's actually not as much as you might think.
Yeah, I thought it was like 3, to be honest.
Yeah, they play Boston, Milwaukee play on Thursday.
Yeah, I think
2 games only on Thursday. Yeah. All right, guys. Before we get into the schedule for the Tuesday night games, let me tell everyone about our presenting sponsor, and that is WinBet. WinBet is the official online sportsbook of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. WinBet is now active in Massachusetts and tons of other states. Be on the lookout for the WinBet Win Hour each Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Time. And during WinBet Win Hour, marquee games of the weeks will have better odds on WinBet, giving you a larger payout opportunity. We're on to the Final Four, and there's so many ways to bet on the big dance. Sign up today to receive a special offer, bet 100 and get 100. Limited state availability. And of course, for our DGens, only if you hit the biggest long shot parlay of the week, you get a $1,000 free credit. There's so much to choose from. All you have to do is head over to winbet.com or download the WinBet app. Offers up to change. Terms and conditions at winbet.com. Must be 21 years or older and present in the state where playthrough WinBet is available. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. If you're looking to hang out with Sean and Ryan at Stadium Swim and watch the biggest golf tournament in the world, you can win a 3-night stay at Circa Las Vegas to hang with the guys. The contest is completely free to enter. Just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/golf party. And if you don't win the contest, you can still get a discount on a room using promo code SGP15. And the Final Four watch party is going virtual. Hang out with the guys on their YouTube channel for the entire Saturday of the Final Four action. Live bets, prize giveaways, and much more. Subscribe to youtube.com/Sports Gambling Podcast and tune in on Saturday. All right, gentlemen, let's get into the schedule here for tonight in the association with the first game on the board. Let's go over to the nation's capital. We got the Boston Celtics. They are in the nation's capital. Take on the Wizards. This line opened up in favor of the Boston Celtics at -11. That number has now been bet up slightly to 11.5. Total opened up at 227. That number has come down to around 223, 223.5 at consensus. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, for the Boston Celtics, pretty clean injury report. Jaylen Brown is on there listed as available. For the Washington Wizards, Daniel Gafford is questionable here tonight, along with Monte Morris. And then guys that are officially out will be Bradley Beal and Kyle Kuzma. So no Kuzma, no Beal here tonight for the Wizards. Questionable tags on Gafford and Monte Morris. Delonte, why don't you lead us off? -11.5 road favorites for the Boston Celtics against the Wizards.
I probably just lean to Boston right now. I think it's pretty much Boston or nothing with the Wizards' injuries and how they've been playing as of late. They've lost and failed to cover 4 of the last 5. They have been a little feisty against certain teams. I think the Raptors game was pretty close until the Raptors pulled away in the fourth quarter. I think actually they were getting blown out in the first. They came back, made it reasonable. I think it's like a 2-point game going into the third. I was on the Raptors, so I was watching that game pretty heavy. They just ended up running out of juice. I think Gafford got injured in that game. I like what I was seeing from some of those guards. Like I was talking shit about Johnny Davis, and he like quietly he had back-to-back good games. Like he was shooting the ball like he was back at Wisconsin. But still, offensively, they've been struggling. With those guys in and out of the lineup, some of the pieces aren't, meshing well together. They're still 27th in defensive rating in the last 10 games. So I'm leaning to Boston. I mean, they've covered 7 of 10, 120 plus points scored in 3 straight games. And bad teams, they usually murder them. They won the last 3 games by a combined 92 total points. And since Robert Williams has been back in the lineup, they're number 1 in defensive rating by a decent margin. So, I mean, some of the stuff that he does, it can't be put on a stat sheet, but just how he, contests shots and makes guys switch up in the air is just something that the Celtics thrive off of. So I would lean to the Celtics here. I probably won't be playing it, but I think that's the only side that you can go with right now.
Yeah, Boston right now over the last 5 games are the second best defensive rated team with a rating of 104.6, a net rating overall over the last 5 games of 21.3. So they're playing pretty good basketball over the last 5 games. Scott, what do you got for this game?
Yeah, I'm on Boston. I think Boston wins in blowout fashion. Boston's been a streaky team all season long, but especially lately, they're on an upswing. Now, they did beat Sacramento comfortably by 20 and change, beat Indiana by 20 plus, and then beat San Antonio by 44 points. Shout out to San Antonio for somehow getting worse as the season went on. But still, Boston, they're playing good basketball. Washington's got nothing to play for. They're another team that I'm kind of going to compare to Utah. It's a little bit different because Utah was expected to be tanking, and then they actually were pretty good for most of the season. And then recently they realized, why are we even trying to win games? Like, we should be trying to lose. You look at what the Wizards have done, and they were trying to be basically a 10 seed the entire season. And then they realized a week ago, wait a second, why are we trying to win? What are we doing? And now they've just basically lost every game for the last week and change. I'm going to go ahead and go with Boston here. They're playing good basketball. It seems like they finally got their mojo back temporarily. I expect them to have a downswing once again. But they're playing good basketball. Washington's got nothing to play for. And I think at the end of the day, Boston, if they actually show up motivated for this game, they'll easily win by 20. Now, the argument is they have Milwaukee on deck. So do you think they'll be looking ahead? Maybe a little bit. But Washington is so bad and they don't care that I'm not sure if it's going to matter. I think Boston wins by 20. So I'm going to lean to Boston here. I just think that Washington is a terrible basketball team that's not trying to win. And the fact that Porzingis is now the healthiest player on your team is a bit of a concern. Because going into the season, you probably would have thought that Beal and Kuzma would have lasted longer than Porzingis has. But shout out to Porzingis, I guess, who's had a pretty good year. But I'm going to go with Boston. I think they win this game comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, it talked about the defensive rating for the Boston Celtics, but the Washington Wizards have been completely opposite of that. They're number 25 over the last 5 games. As far as defensive rating, 123.7, and their 3-point defense has just been atrocious over the last 5 games as well. They're giving up about 15 makes per game, which ranks number 27, and then opponent 3-point percentage by the Wizards dead last. They're allowing teams to shoot 44.2%. We know how Boston likes to jack up the 3-point shots. And it seems like the Washington, at least over the last 5 games, are just giving up so many good looks to their opponents. And I think that is going to be something that Boston should be able to take advantage of here tonight. Also, what Delonte mentioned there, that getting Robert Williams back obviously automatically boosts the defensive rating for the Boston Celtics. So I understand, and I think somebody pointed out in the chat, Drew pointed out that this might be a look-ahead spot for the Celtics. I'm not sure, just because there is a day off in between for the Boston Celtics. I'll go with the Boston here as well. I really do like the team total to go over for them here tonight. I think that's my favorite play in this game at 117.5. But Scott, any thoughts on the total here for tonight at 223.5 now?
I guess I'd have to consider an over because I think Boston could score 130. So that's kind of going to be factored in. But I'm with you. I like Boston team total over. I'm really not expecting Washington to contribute much, especially with how the Celtics have played defense lately. And the Kings, they only gave up 109. Sacramento, we know, is a great offensive team. Pacers only scored 95. I don't believe Halliburton played in that game. So, I don't know if that really means much. And they gave up 93 to San Antonio. San Antonio stinks, but they play at a fast pace. So you thought maybe they'd get to 100 based on possessions. Washington plays slower. They're also just not very good. I'm going to go with the under for Washington's team total, but I think Boston could score 120. So for the full game, I think I'm going to stay away, but I am going to go with Boston team total over.
I think I know already where Delonte is going with the total, but I'll let him say it. Delonte, thoughts on totals?
Yeah, man, but I'll make it a consensus with the Boston team total. I think they score like north of 125 here. Their offenses have been rolling. I mean, they beat the Spurs. I mean, I know it's the Spurs, but without Tatum by 40. So I mean, they're just like rolling. I'm not sure Boston fans liked the press conference from Jaylen Brown afterwards when he was asked about like the ovation. You guys see that?
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So I don't know if he's just that locked in or if he's just like ready to get up out of there or what. But that's interesting. But yeah, I like the under. 23 of the 37 road games for Boston have went under. I didn't factor in the Rob Williams effect. I should have had those numbers. That would have been better. But when he's on the floor, I mean, offenses just can't get going. They can't get anything in the paint. Well, Porzingis is going to shoot. He's not going to go in the lane, and Gafford's questionable. So, I mean, without Gafford, they don't have an inside presence. So, I don't think they'll be able to score a lot. So I like the under here, but I do love the team total for Boston with you guys. So, but full game under and definitely Boston team total over.
What happened to Wizards first quarter over?
Man, nah, no first quarter overs. Nah, no first quarter overs.
Well, they are 4-1 to the over in their first in the first quarter of the last 4 games, or sorry, last 5 games.
They is in Washington or Boston?
Washington, best first quarter ATS team in the. I mean, not first quarter over
to
team
the over.
In the
well, you
league.
mentioned that before, but Munaf said they, so I was making sure we were talking about the same team.
The Wizards, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll be able to score as much on Boston's defense. I mean, they're really, really locked in. Like, so I just can't take it over right now with Washington against that defense.
I want to see their defensive rating in the first quarter, but why don't you give your any player props, Delonte, and then I'll look up that first quarter for the Wizards defense.
Yeah, man, I like Denny Avia. I think I'm saying that right. Points, rebounds, and assists over 26.5. He's over in 4 straight games. His role has expanded since like Beal and Kuzma have been out.
They don't have any players,
right?
So he's going to play more.
Mm-hmm. But he's been productive all year, even when Beal and Kuzma have been playing. Like when he gets like 25 plus minutes, he usually produces. I like how he rebounds. He plays a lot of the point forward role. So, I mean, I don't know if you've seen he made an incredible like behind the back pass behind the head pass to Porzingis against the Raptors. That was crazy. But yeah, I mean, like you said, Scott, somebody has to score, somebody has to facilitate. I think it'll be him. So I lean him over. Well, I'm playing him over 26.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I didn't see Derek White threes, but it should be around 2.5. He's went over in 4 of the last 5, shooting about 6 per game. Washington's defense is lacking on corner threes. They don't defend the corner 3 well. And Derek White will be probably posted up in those corners while Tatum and Brown run a lot of the pick and roll. So I like him over his threes made. I just don't see a number on it, but it's usually like slated around 2.5 at pretty decent odds.
Scott, player props.
So you mentioned the corner threes. Kobe brought it up in the chat. Al Horford 3-pointers at around 2.5. I like the over. Horford, we know, is going to stand in the corner as well. Probably the opposite side as Derek White, but I expect him to get a lot of attempts. The only concern is if it's a blowout, how many minutes are these guys actually going to play? Which is going to be a problem. So just keep an eye on that. But Aaron's mentioning Kispert, maybe. I mean, somebody's going to have to shoot the ball. I think my favorite prop's probably not up yet. I'll take DeLon Wright props, assuming that Morris is out. I don't see lines on it, but when he plays and he actually plays decent minutes, he's always a threat to potentially go for a double-double because he's just a good facilitator and he's a pretty underrated rebounder. But looking at the numbers here, the last 2 games, played against Toronto, he played 34 minutes, had 5 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists, went 2 for 9 from the floor. And against San Antonio, the game before that, 29 minutes, had 24 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists. So I don't mind DeLon Wright props. I think he's actually a very good player, especially on a tanking team, because he's not afraid to do a little bit of everything. So I think if you want to look for a guy who might be a bit impervious to getting benched in a blowout, it might be DeLon Wright because he's the backup point guard who now has to start. Johnny Davis might play a little bit, but I think DeLon Wright's got a pretty good spot here because somebody's going to have to handle the ball, and it's going to be Wright as the starting point guard. But his rebounds and assists have been pretty underpriced because of it. I think he's in line for a pretty decent game.
Yeah, I was on DeLon Wright props when Monte Morris was out of the lineup for the Wizards. So his assists, they were catching at a very high rate.
Even the rebounds are decent for him.
Last 2 games, he's had 7 rebounds in each of those games. So, definitely keep an eye on that injury report if Monte Morris is not able to go here tonight for the Wizards. I think, that's a great pivot for DeLon Wright for tonight for the Wizards. You guys have anything else for this game?
No, I don't.
Nope. All right. Before we keep it rolling here, let me tell everyone about Shady Rays. Kick off the new year with new gear to build to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered from the sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades, customizable snow, goggles, and much more. Shady Rays is an independent sunglass company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair that we've worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by the lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on the day that you receive them, they told us they will send you a brand new pair for absolutely free, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. With Shady Rays, you can look good and feel good. Today, they have donated over 20 million meals to fight hunger with Feeding America. And if you don't love them, exchange them for a new pair or just return them for free within the 30-day return window period. There's no risk when you shop with Shady Rays. Their team always has your back. So exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the new year. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code SGPN for 50% off of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Again, go to shadyrays.com, use promo code SGPN for 50% off of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people. All right, let's keep it rolling here, guys. The next game on the schedule, we have the Miami Heat. They are headed up north to take on the Toronto Raptors. This line opened up in favor of the Toronto Raptors at a number of -3. That number has pretty much stayed the course at -3. Starting to see some -3.5s pop up. Total opened up at 219. That number has now been bet up around 219.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, for the visiting team, the Miami Heat, they are pretty healthy. Kyle Lowry is the only questionable tag with left knee soreness. For the Toronto Raptors, Gary Trent Jr. is questionable here tonight, and Will Barton is doubtful as well. And those are the 2 only significant injuries for the Raptors. So doubtful for Will Barton and questionable for Gary Trent Jr. Let's start with the side here. Scott, why don't you lead us off with this game? Miami catching 3 points in Toronto tonight against the Raptors.
So Miami last time out had probably their most important game of the season because they are competing with the Nets right now for the 6 or 7 spot, however you want to phrase it. And let's just say Miami didn't show up for the second half because they were winning at halftime. And then they got absolutely destroyed by 30-plus points in the second half. They scored 31 points in the entire second half and lost by 29. You probably saw the video of Giannis Haslam going nuts on the bench because his only role is to motivate the team and promote Heat culture. And they got blown out by 30-plus points in the second half and basically a must-win game. So they're actually still tied with the Nets because the Nets lost to Orlando the day after. Or they might be half a game back, but the point is they're still definitely competing for that 6th spot. At the end of the day, though, even though Toronto's at home and they've been good lately, and they are actually tied, I take it back. But the point is, it's a good spot, in my opinion, for people to kind of buy low on Miami. Toronto's a team that's been playing better lately, and I get it. And I know that the spread seems a little bit low. I actually found a 4 out there if you want to take Miami. But I see a lot of the time, you see teams get blown out in meaningful games, and then they rally the troops and they come back the game after with a much stronger effort. I feel like everyone's going to take Toronto in the spot because of how well they've been playing lately. But I do feel like the Heat have a decent spot to kind of go contrarian here because I think these teams are going to play a physical style, and I think Jimmy Butler maybe puts on a masterclass here. I'm going to lean to Miami. I feel like Toronto's a spot where you might be wondering why this line is so short based on how well Toronto's played. I think it might be short for a reason. I'm going to give Miami the benefit of the doubt, which sounds extremely dumb because I know that they just got killed and you can't trust this team. This line seems short, and I think it seems a bit trappy, but I'm hoping Miami gives a much better effort after getting blown out on their home floor. I'm going to lean to Miami and hope Jimmy Butler rallies the troops.
All right. Delonte, what do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of torn on this game. I literally have been. I think I told you guys this. Maybe it was off the air. I've been betting like Toronto every game since the All-Star break. They're just like a bet. There was a bet on team for me. I thought they would turn it on. They've covered 7 of the last 10. They play well at home, 24-15 ATS. Well, they just like I think the matchup wise, like Scott said, it kind of favors Miami. Matchup and spot wise, kind of favors Miami, but I can't get there with them. Toronto fouls a lot, and that could be, detrimental to what they want to do, and that's get out in transition or third in transition points per possession offense.
You're saying Butler might get 20 free throws tonight?
Yeah, literally, he really might. Miami's 7th in free throw rate offense. Toronto, to my point earlier, the 26th in free throw rate defense. So they're gonna foul. And they don't defend the mid-range. Miami's a top 10 mid-range offense, and Toronto's bottom 5. So some of the advantages are with Miami here. They struggle on the road, 15-21 ATS, but I think like spot-wise, like Scott was saying, it's pretty much it screams Miami. I probably won't be betting this game. Probably just looking at some player props. But if I had to play a side, I'd probably just lean to Miami.
I'm not going to bet it, but the fact that it's only 3 does feel like kind of free money for most people for Toronto. That's a stay away for me. They got buried on their home floor against a team they're competing with for a playoff spot. I got to expect Miami to bring something in this game. If not, their seasons might as well be over at this point.
Yeah, I think I'm going to lean with Miami here as well. I think is you have to bounce back after what kind of transpired in the last game for the Miami Heat. And again, you probably or not probably, but you do want to stay out of that play-in tournament bracket, having to play a couple extra games with around only about 7 games left for each team. So that was a big win for the Brooklyn Nets the other night. But now with Toronto, we know that they're going to be in that play-in tournament bracket right there. It just depends on what seed they end up at, 8, 9, or 10.
They're a dangerous team in that tournament.
Yeah, I think so too. But for Miami, I think that if you're able to, I think this line is starting to creep up a little bit. I'm starting to see some 3.5s. Like Scott said, there's some 4s out there as well. If it gets to 4, anything outside of 4, 4.5, if it gets up there, I will be on the Miami Heat here as well. So definitely, if you're on the Miami side, wait, because like Scott mentioned, there are 4 starting to pop up for the Miami Heat. Again, you have to rally after what happened in the second half in that game against the Brooklyn Nets. So I think it's a good bounce back spot. I know Toronto's been playing well, but I think this is an opportunity for the Miami Heat to steal one here in Toronto here tonight, led by Jimmy Butler. So let's get over to the total in this game, guys. That number is currently sitting at 219.5. Delonte, got anything on the total?
Probably would lean to the under. I'm sorry. I think both teams they match up well together. Like they're the wings of Toronto, especially if Trent plays, they'll be able to stretch out the defense, but Miami pretty much runs teams off of the 3-point line. So I think both teams have some success. Miami's offense has been playing well. I think they're top 5 offensive rating in the last 10 games and like 24, 25 overall. So that just goes to show they've been playing better offensively, but defensively is where Toronto has their biggest advantage. So they're 9th in defensive rating in the last 10 games. So I'll lean to the under. Nothing strong though.
Scott?
I want to lean under. Miami's defense has been so bad lately that I feel like it's a little bit overvalued how good the defense is. I'm going to lean over. I think that the free throws are going to play a factor, as Delonte said before. I can see this turning into a bit of a free throw fest. I'm going to lean over. Even though I mentioned Miami, I think my favorite play on the Heat's probably Butler over in points. Because if Miami's going to win or cover, Butler's going to have a big game. And there's ways that Miami can still lose and Butler still has a very good game. So I think that's probably my favorite play in favor of Miami. I'm just going to lean to Butler over because I think that, once again, they're going to go as far as he takes them. And he really didn't do much against the Nets. I think he bounces back. Delonte mentioned the free throw numbers and the amount of fouls Toronto commits. I can see a lot of attempts there for Butler, but he's going to have to be aggressive. So I'm going to lean to Butler over. I think he's in line for maybe a 30-piece. He's done well historically against Toronto. But I think that he's in line for a good game.
Dante, player props.
Yeah, man, I like a couple player props in this matchup. I like Jacob. I like Jakob Poeltl over 21.5 points and rebounds. He's over in 7 of his last 8, and this is including double doubles in 5 of those games. The Heat interior defense is where they lack. I mean, outside of Bam, like who's their backup center or backup forward? You guys know? Like, I mean, they just slide Jimmy Butler down and have him rebound
for the Miami Heat.
Yeah, I don't think they have anybody that's worth anything from the backup center position or forward position.
Let me see. That's a good question.
Yeah. So
it's usually obviously Bam that starts, but then off the bench they usually bring in not even Highsmith. They really don't have one. I mean,
they just don't have a dip. They just don't have a dip.
Yeah, well, one of the Martin brothers, Kyle Lowry, and then Max Strus has been coming off the bench.
Right.
So yeah.
So yeah, they don't have any traditional forward. I mean, even Bam, he's not a traditional center, but he plays center, like a small ball center. So outside of Bam, I mean, there's nobody that's going to keep Poeltl off the glass. So I like him over 21.5 rebounds. If you could find a double-double on him, that's not too crazy juiced. I would play that as well. I like Scotty Barnes under a half threes made. It's at plus money. You can get like plus 115, plus 120. He's under in 4 of the last 5, only attempting about 1.5 in that span. And the Heat run, like I said earlier, the Heat, they run teams off the 3-point line, so you're going to have to beat them from the mid-range to be able to have success here. And then Scott, I mean, I won't take your thunder, but I like Jimmy Butler over 23.5.
I think you have to, right? 23.5 is low for a guy who might go to the line 12 times in this game.
Right. He's over in 8 of the last 10 games. Like so.
Yeah, I can't argue against Jimmy Butler in this game. That number does seem a little conservative. I was looking at Fred VanVleet assist here tonight. They've already played 3 matchups this season. Toronto has won 2 out of 3 so far. But in those 3 games this season, Fred VanVleet has had 10 assists, 9 assists, and 8 assists. And over his last 5 games, he's averaging 8 assists or around 8.2 assists per game in that span. Currently see his number listed at 7.5 at plus 110. So I don't hate that. Some plus odds money there. But that was the real only player prop I really did like in this game. Yeah, you guys have anything else for this game?
No, I don't.
I don't think I have much.
Let's keep it rolling to the next game of the night. We have the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are in Atlanta here tonight to take on the Hawks. This line opened up in favor of the Cleveland Cavaliers at -2, and now that number is now down to a pick 'em. Total opened up at 231. That number's been bet all the way up to 237.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, for the road team, the Cleveland Cavaliers, I am currently seeing Jared Allen is questionable here tonight, and also Isaac Okoro is questionable here tonight. Nobody of significance that is, well, they have plenty of guys that are out, but nobody really of significance. And then for the Atlanta Hawks, pretty clean injury report. Only Jalen Johnson is out with a left hamstring and groin strain. Delonte, lead us off with a now down to a pick 'em between the Cavs and the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah, I think it's the perfect number. Pick 'em would be probably the best price to play at this game. Cleveland is the better team, but I mean they struggle on the road. 16-21 and 1 ATS on the road. Their defense travels. They're still allowing under 110 points in 3 of the last 5 games. They force turnovers, but Atlanta doesn't turn the ball over. It's just hard to trust Atlanta. I thought it was a home run spot for them against Memphis, and while they play well, they kind of had stretches where they didn't look disinterested defensively, which is something they've been looking like all year. The offense looks a lot better with Quinn at the helm, playing a lot more off ball. Trey's playing a lot more off ball. I mean, they've covered 3 of the last 5, but I just don't like how they've been playing. They're not profitable at home, 17-20 ATS at home. Yeah, and they're just giving up 120 plus in 4 of the last 5 games. So that just goes to show you that they're playing no defense at all. Some of the things that Atlanta does well, getting out in transition, they won't be able to do against Cleveland, even without Jared Allen. Mobley will be able to protect the paint. So I guess I'll lean Cleveland here. I don't have anything strong on it. I just think that the better defensive team, likely the best player on the court in Donovan Mitchell. So I'll just take the Cavs here.
Scott, what do you got?
I think I'm going to lean to Atlanta. And the Cavs are the much better team. I'm not going to pretend that they're not. However, their best two defensive players are just casually not playing against a team that is only good at offense. I think it's a good spot for Atlanta at home. The thing is, we saw the last meeting that they had, and Atlanta won that one at home 136 to 119. And now Allen and Okoro both might not play. I think it's a decent spot for Trey to have a huge game, maybe DeJounte as well, but I think that this line seems extremely trappy where people are just going to jump on Cleveland because Cleveland's the better team and they've won 4 straight, and Atlanta's been inconsistent. But I'm going to lean Atlanta here. It's a good spot, in my opinion. Who's supposed to guard anybody on this Cleveland team? You got Mobley, who's going to be roaming the paint, and isn't that basically it? Trey historically has been very good against Cleveland, but they don't have many good wing defenders if Okoro is not going to play. So, what are you looking at? Karis LeVert as your best defensive player on the perimeter?
Mm-hmm.
That's not exactly ideal. I'm going to lean Atlanta. I like the over in this game. I know that the total seems high, but once again, the last meeting landed in the 250s. I like Atlanta team total over, but I think that's going to be my main play. I'm going to lean Atlanta team total over. I just see them scoring a bunch of points against the Cavs team that, A, should be worse defensively, B, should play faster. With Allen being off the floor and with the Okoro, I know he hit the corner shot against the Nets to win the game. He's not a great shooter, or he doesn't give you much offensively. So Cleveland's offense might actually improve with the Okoro off the floor because they have an extra shooter as a floor spacer. Maybe give Osman more minutes. He's actually been good lately, and he can give you some spacing. I like the over in this spot. I think you'll see points, but give me Atlanta team total over. I think Atlanta probably scores 120.
Yeah,
Wow,
I couldn't really.
What?
120 on
They scored
Cleveland?
136 last game, and Okoro and Allen might not play.
I don't know. Oh, my bad, Munaf. I didn't mean to cut you.
I know
off.
They're at home. So
Yeah, look, we talked about this on Saturday, right? Where Atlanta's just giving up an incredible amount of points, and they're also scoring points as well. But Cleveland on the road so far this season, it hasn't been world beaters as far as the spread goes. 16, 20, and 2 overall on the road. We know they're a really good home team. And then on the road to the total 20 slightly to the over at 20 and 18. And then Atlanta at home 19 and 18 to the over at home. They're 17 and 13 as home favorites, but currently seeing that as a pick 'em. So yeah, I think that we'll see some back and forth in this game. If this game was in Cleveland, where Cleveland, like we mentioned, have been a really good home team against the spread and towards the under, I would look at it that way. But since this is in Atlanta, we talked about this on Saturday where they were like, it was automatically just 70 points being scored in that first quarter. I think we'll just see some back and forth here. I think this should be a game where the stars really shine. I think Donovan Mitchell has a big game. I think they, like Scott mentioned, Trey Young should have a big game. DeJounte Murray should get his as well. And I think we'll see a lot of 3-point shooting in this game here as well for the Atlanta Hawks. So I'm not going to talk you off the Atlanta Hawks team total over either, but I do like the over in this game. The money has come in on the over, and the line has moved, or the total has moved in that direction towards the over at 237.5 right now. Let's get over to some player props in this game. Delonte, do you have anything that you do like?
I like Evan Mobley points, rebounds, and assists. I like it especially if Allen is out. That means he'll be responsible more with like rebounding, and he's been facilitating a little bit more as of late. I think like he matches up well against the Atlanta front line. He's over in 4 the last 5 games, and he landed 30 in one of those games. So I like a matchup, and I like the spot for Evan Mobley. Also, DeJounte Murray over 5.5 assists. I think that's a little bit too short. Like I mentioned earlier, Trey's been playing a little bit off ball since Quinn has arrived. So DeJounte's been handling the ball a lot more, and he's effective in that role. It's just that I don't think Trey is as comfortable yet playing off the ball. Maybe he'll get there, maybe he won't, depending on your stance on Trey. But DeJounte's over this number in 4 straight in those 4 games, 9, 12, 8, and 9 for the assists. So I think he has a decent night assist-wise. In guarding, I guess Mitchell will probably take away from some of his offensive prowess scoring-wise. So I like him to be dishing out a lot of assists tonight.
Scott, player props.
Well, I didn't mention before, by the way, we got to take the first quarter over, right, at like 60.5.
I was going to go back and take the first half over, first quarter or first half. I think, yeah. Just because Last 5 games, both of these teams are top 5 in offensive rating. We talked about it on Saturday as well. Atlanta's number 2, 130.4 offensive rating, and Cleveland number 4 in offensive rating at 125.3 over the last 5 games in the first half in particular. But yeah,
I think I'd lean
first
to the
quarter,
first half also as well, now that I think about it, because the last meeting, even though it landed 255, you only had 55 in the first quarter. Second quarter had a casual 83.
Just a
So
casual.
I think I might be in favor of the first half as well for the over, but I see points in this game.
Yeah.
So I like a bunch of overs. I think Trey's going to have a good game. I thought about taking assists as well, but the problem is DeJounte has handled the ball more. So I am a little bit worried about the assists if Trey's going to play off ball. I like the points, though. Mobley, Delonte already mentioned, I think he's going to have a good game, especially if you see Allen out of the lineup. I got to like Capella. Capella's been giving them very good minutes lately. And he's been a double-double machine lately. What do you have, like 16 and 16 over the weekend against?
18 and 16 against the
18 and
Grizzlies,
16 against Memphis.
17 and 17 against the Pacers.
Yep.
So I'd look at Capella to have a good game as well. Mobley, we know is a good defensive player, but with all the pick and roll switches and with the lob threats that Trey can throw, I think you'll end up seeing Capella get a couple of easy dunks by the rim with all the switches. But I see points. So if I'm expecting each team to potentially score 120, I like the overs. You mentioned it might be a game where the stars shine. I don't mind the same game parlay, like Mitchell 35 plus, Trey 30 plus, DeJounte 20 plus, and maybe Garland 20 plus. I see a bunch of points. Like I just think you're going to see really no defense being played, and that's why I like the overs in this game.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. If this big of a total, if we do like the over, you'll see a lot of points being scored. Like I mentioned, I think this is a game where we do see the stars shine. Well, there's Darius Garland, Trey Young, Donovan Mitchell, DeJounte Murray. Do you like the Clint Capella angle for tonight as well as far as his rebounds? Trying to pull up that number exactly.
He's been so good for them lately.
Yeah, and I think we've seen him playing a little bit of more minutes as well compared to what we were used to seeing earlier in the season. That number's at 12.5 right now for Clint Capella at plus 110 as well. So there's some nice plus odds for, especially like we just mentioned. He's had 12, 16, 8, 17, and 16 over the last 5 games for the Atlanta Hawks. For the Atlanta Hawks. But in 2 games this season against the Cleveland Cavaliers, he's only averaging 8 rebounds. So definitely keep that in mind. I think as far as any player props that I do like, I think that Donovan Mitchell has a big game. His points prop is at 27.5. It's a little chalky and square, but
I think he's going for 30.
Yeah,
sometimes
he can
that
get
wins.
into the point. Yeah, I think he gets into 30. Maybe Darius Garland threes. I know he's early on in the season. We talked about that as well. That number is at 1.5. It's at 1.5 minus.
I thought about
180,
Osman threes if I get lines on it.
Yeah, that'll probably come out later in the
Osman's
day.
been shooting well lately.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's it. Anything else for this game, guys?
Yeah, I got nothing else.
No.
All right, so we'll cut it here for part 1 of the NBA Gambling Podcast for the Tuesday games. So we'll get into part 2 for the final 3 games on the schedule here for Tuesday. So again, tune in for part 2 as well. All right, we are back for part 2 of the NBA Gambling Podcast for the Tuesday games. Let's get right into the action here for the next game on the schedule, gentlemen. We have the Charlotte Hornets. They are in Oklahoma City tonight to take on the Thunder. The line opened up in favor of the Thunder at -9. That number is now at -10.5. Total opened up at 231. That number's been bet down to 230. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams. For the Charlotte Hornets, I am currently seeing Gordon Hayward is doubtful for tonight. Kelly Oubre Jr. is questionable, and Terry Rozier is out tonight for the Charlotte Hornets. For the Oklahoma City Thunder, SGA is questionable tonight, and that is only the pretty much significant injury for the Oklahoma City Thunder. So pretty clean injury report except for the questionable tag on SGA for the Thunder. Scott, lead us off with this game. Currently seeing the Thunder laying 10.5 points against the Charlotte Hornets.
So I've mentioned this over the course of the year that when Hayward does not play, Charlotte is basically an auto fade. However, There's no way in hell I'm laying 10.5 with the Thunder. They couldn't even cover against a Portland team that's actively tanking on the season. They almost lost that game. That was a dangerous moment there for OKC. They held on, so they got the job done. But I don't trust them as a big favorite here. OKC has been very good at home recently, but I do think that this number is a bit high. My question for you is, even though the offense is limited for Charlotte with Hayward being out, do they have a better chance of winning if Oubre plays or doesn't play?
If he plays.
You think so?
Yeah.
I'm a pretty
if he
anti-Kelly
plays-
Oubre guy. That's why I'm asking.
I like Oubre.
I wish
He
that
can
there
score.
was.
I think he's a net negative, but
If there was a prop where there was like field goal attempts, I would like just
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
over for Oubre every single game. But to answer your question, I don't know. I think though, I mean, with him, I think at least they'll benefit with him, and especially with Gordon Hayward not playing here tonight and Tay Roach. You got to get the score.
They need someone who can score, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, let's just say I'm not a big Kelly Oubre guy because the volume's insane for a relatively average player. But anyway, I like Charlotte in the spot. A lot of teams have rolled over. I just mentioned Portland. I think Utah's been rolling over. Washington's been rolling over. San Antonio should be in the G League right now. This is just embarrassing for San Antonio. Charlotte,
Houston with them.
yeah. Well, Houston's been competitive here and there. They give Memphis a run for their money a couple of times. But I do think Charlotte is the opposite. They've actually become competitive because a lot of teams expect them to roll over and they think they have a free win on the schedule. But Charlotte's been playing hard. Defensively, they've been very good for the last month or two.
Yeah.
And they beat Dallas twice over the weekend. I know Dallas stinks, but still, they were double-digit underdogs in both those games, and they won both those games. But Dennis Smith Jr., fighting for a roster spot. Svi Mikhailuk fighting for a roster spot. They got young centers who are trying to get more minutes. This team is actually kind of embracing the extra playing time that they have, and they've been very prideful with their minutes. And I feel like that's definitely a good sign for Charlotte that they're playing hard despite having nothing to play for. And I think that makes them a dangerous team when you're getting double-digit points all the time. And I think that with Charlotte being competitive over the weekend, with OKC struggling to put away a really awful Portland team last game. I know that OKC's back home, but it was a pretty long road trip, and I know we've mentioned before that teams tend to struggle in their first home game back after a long road trip.
Mm-hmm.
The spread seems a little bit large to me. Now, I saw it in the comments section. I'm all over Nick Richards props because they already announced that they're going to be rotating the three centers for the rest of the season, and Mark Williams is out for this game, which means that Nick Richards and Kai Jones are going to be getting the reps at center. I don't know if you've watched Kai Jones play. He's horrible. I think Richards should play 30-plus points. Kai Jones, he's a good athlete. He's not ready for the NBA. He's not good enough. Richards should get a bunch of minutes. OKC doesn't play a center. I love Richards' props here. I'm hoping Charlotte does what they did against Dallas, which is dominate on the glass, win the rebounding battle by about 15, and win the game. I think they got a shot to win the game, actually. But I'm going to take the 10.5. I don't trust OKC laying this many points against a young team that is actually looking forward to playing out the rest of the season. I'm taking Charlotte plus the points.
Can we imagine like 2-3 years ago that we would see the Oklahoma City Thunder laying 10.5
Right.
points in an NBA game?
Right.
When was the last
Delonte, what
time
do you got?
OKC actually covered a 10.5 spread? Like when Durant was there, when Westbrook was winning an MVP?
Probably
I don't
maybe
think they
when
did a lot of
Westbrook or
covering
Paul
then.
George were there. Maybe.
Probably Westbrook and Paul George. It's a good
Yeah,
point.
maybe.
Yeah. Delonte, what do you got?
Yeah, I like Charlotte as well. I think they're the number one defense since the All-Star break, if I'm not mistaken, rating wise.
They're up there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Yeah, I think that they're top 10 for sure. In the last 10 games, they defend the rim well. So a lot of the slashers that Oklahoma City has, that'll be negated a little bit. And like Scott said, they're returning home from Oklahoma City's returning home from that West Coast trip. I usually like to fade teams if matchup wise, calls for it when teams are returning home. They failed to cover in 3 straight games. We all know that they're really good ATS, but a lot of that is as an underdog and a small favorite if at best. But I like the way
what's their favorite record? Aren't they horrible as a favorite this year?
I think they are.
Thunder.
Yeah,
I think
aren't they
are bad
horrible
as
in their favorite?
Let me see if I can. Find
As a home favorite, they're actually 13-5 against the spread.
okay.
What about for the full season?
Full season as a favorite.
I don't know how
will
often
look
they'd be
that up.
favored on the road though, so that might not change much. But
Let me look at
really 13-5.
I didn't think it was that good either.
I thought they started off the year poorly. Maybe they just caught fire as a home favorite lately, but my bad.
No, you're good. And I just like the way Charlotte's playing. Like you said, they got those young guys. They're playing hard.
They're
more
trying.
importantly, they're playing defense. I mean, like that's the one thing that you got to do as a young guy. If you want to make an impact on the team, you got to play defense. That usually gets the coach's attention, and that's what they've been doing. Now their offense has been struggling a bit as of late. They're 30th in points per possession offense and effective field goal percentage. But once you're playing that hard defensively, you're going to get some turnovers. You're going to get some putbacks. I don't know why Mark Williams is being rotated. He's like 19 years old. Why? I don't understand why he's not playing every minute.
They're just trying to evaluate everybody. They know Kai Jones is probably the weakest link, but since they got nothing to play for, they're just they're giving minutes to all the young centers to see who they're probably going to get rid of.
Yeah, I guess so. But
it's going to be Kai Jones.
I would want to have. Yeah, I would want to have my lottery pick playing as much as possible, to be honest. But I mean, I get it. You don't want to like win and stun his growth or whatever. But whatever. Just. I like Charlotte here. I played 9 on the open. It's a bad number. It's 10.5 now. I don't think Gordon Hayward's worth 1.5. We already knew Rozier and likely Oubre might be out, so I don't think he's worth 1.5, to be honest. But still, I love Charlotte here. I know we're going to pivot to the total later, but I like the under also.
Yeah, so I was looking it up. Thunder are actually 13-5 as a home favorite. That's the best in the league as far as home teams go at a cover percentage. But on the road, as a road favorite, they are 1-5 is what I saw.
Okay, so that's probably what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with Charlotte here as well. I think this, again, too many points for the Oklahoma City Thunder. I was trying to see if they've ever been favored this season by that many points. But
what were they favored against Portland? Like, isn't that going to be the closest
they were
that they got?
I want to say they were like, it was close to 10, wasn't it?
Close
Right?
to 10?
7. I know they didn't cover the game. Let me see. Hold on.
Thunder. I'm just gonna. I have it in front of me. Let me just pull it up quickly. So Thunder against Portland in their last game were favored by exactly 10.5.
Yeah, and that was on the road as well, right? So
yeah.
Give me Charlotte here. I think Charlotte first quarter money line might be a play here tonight. To answer your question, Delonte, since the All-Star break, Charlotte is actually number 2. They probably got they were probably number 1 before the Pelicans jumped them. I'm thinking it was last night after what against Portland. But sense. They're one of the better teams. So Charlotte for me as well. Delonte, take us to the total.
Yeah, I like the under. Charlotte's actually played in 5 straight unders, and we went ahead about we talked about their defensive ability and how those guys are buying in to what the coaching staff wants them to do. Oklahoma City, I'm not liking what I'm seeing from their offense. I think I mentioned this over the weekend. They're like a bit stagnant with SGA, like ISOs. They're just watching him like dribble like Kyrie and Luka.
To be fair, what other threats do they actually have on offense?
I mean, maybe not, but I think they would be better suited in running. I mean, they got weapons with Joe and Jalen Williams and Giddey to a lesser extent. Now, of course, none of those guys can score like SGA, but I think they'd be better suited in getting some of those guys like looks, because they honestly look better like ball movement wise, like when SGA is not dominating the ball. That's just from an eye test perspective from what I've been watching. I watch a lot of their games, and like when he's in, they give him the ball, of course, rightfully so. I mean, he's a great offensive player. I just think that it's been a little bit more dependent on him scoring rather than them as a team working offensively. So, but yeah, I like the under here. Both defenses have been playing at elite level. I don't think Charlotte has enough to score. They probably won't even score 105, 106. And I think Oklahoma City is probably in that 108, 109 range. So I like the under here.
Scott, what do you got for the total?
I'm on the under as well. I think Charlotte's going to keep this competitive, but I know they can't score. So I'm expecting this to go one way. I think it's going to be a bit of a rock fight. Hoping OKC struggles after the West Coast trip. Maybe they struggle early on. I like your mention before of Hornets first quarter, maybe first half. Even in these wins recently at home, because I know OKC's on a bit of a run here at home, they've really not been good in the first half of games. If you just look through the recent results here, and they've had to come from behind a couple of times there at home. Ended up beating Phoenix last time at home by 4. They trailed at half, and they had to come back. Played the Nets the game prior, also trailed at half, had to come back. The team's been good down the stretch, but the problem is in the first half, they get off to a bit of a slow start on a regular basis. And Charlotte's been pretty good at kind of jumping out and surprising teams. I like Charlotte first half here. And a full game, I like the points, but I don't mind Charlotte first half money line, first quarter money line, because I do think that Charlotte early on can surprise teams with their defensive intensity. As the game goes on, the offensive struggles are going to be so noticeable that OKC might come back. But early on, it wouldn't surprise me if OKC kind of just stays on autopilot defensively, gives up a 30-point quarter, and Charlotte defensively kind of holds their own. You mentioned, Delonte, that OKC's offense can be a bit problematic at times. The problem is I don't know how many people on the team can actually shoot. Joe is a very good shooter. I don't think he plays enough. I think he's a good enough shooter to shoot more. You have both Jalen Williamses, who are more pick and roll options. They don't really shoot much from the outside. They do a little bit. And Giddey, I like as a player, but he can't really shoot. He's shooting 33% from three. He's really not a good outside shooter. They don't have many good floor spacing options. And with Richards patrolling the paint, I think they actually have some rim protection to combat some of that. So I like Charlotte early on in this game.
Yeah, I was going to take I was looking up the numbers for Charlotte, the first quarter numbers for both these teams over the last 10 games. Oklahoma City's dead last as far as offensive rating in the first quarter, 101.6. And if just for reference, 29, but they have a rating of 106.1. So it's about close to a 4.5-point difference as far as rating from 29 to 30 where Thunder are. They also have a 116.5 rating in the first quarter as far as defense goes, and an overall net rating of minus 14.9. So and we saw Charlotte, like we mentioned, I know it was with Gordon Hayward in the lineup, but they came out in both of those games against Dallas and won both of those first quarters as heavy underdogs. So I think this is a similar situation for them. As far as the total, I'm with you guys on the under as well. Talked about Charlotte's defense since All-Star break, and in particular over the last 5 to 10 games, they're still consistently in that top 5, top 10 range. As far as defense goes, OKC right at league average around 116.5 as far as defensive rating as well over the last 10 games. I'm sorry, they're number 8 actually over the last 10 games as far as defense. So with the struggling offense, we've seen it, like you guys talked about, without Gordon Hayward, they're just not able to produce many points. This looks like a very high number at 230. So I'm going with the under as well. Player props in this game, Delonte, lead us off.
Yeah, I don't like any player props in this game, to be honest with you.
Okay. Scott, what do you got?
I'm on Nick Richards. I bet it on the overnight. I got him double-double at around plus 135. That's down to plus 115 or so. He better get there. I've been praising Nick Richards for months. They finally gave him the green light, and he's against an OKC team with no center. That's one of the worst rebounding teams in the league. That's kind of why I'm also hoping Oubre doesn't play, because I need more shots. Like, I want Richards to get a lot of shot attempts, which I'm not sure he's going to get. But anywhere near the rim, he should be able to have a mismatch, and he's a pretty good free throw shooter. He's shooting like 74%. So I think that double-double's worth a look there for Richards. I don't mind rebounds as well if you want to take that solo. So I like that. Dennis Smith Jr. assists have been very good, and he's kind of been a solid point guard lately. I'm not sure he's going to get a double-double, but he's been very good at facilitating. I don't mind that. Maybe Mikhailuk threes if you want to look for a three-point option, especially with, Hayward being out and the guys they're missing. Mikhailuk has gotten a bigger run or a larger role with this team lately. So I think he might be worth a look there. I'm just pulling up the 3-point numbers for Mikhailuk because I know that he's basically there for 3-point shooting. Last couple of games, 1-3-3-2. So wasn't as good as I thought it was, but I think he's got an opportunity. PJ Washington is a player who I don't think is very good, but the usage is through the roof lately. So I wouldn't mind maybe PJ Washington props because he takes a ton of shots for a pretty mediocre basketball player. I don't mind the over for him, assuming that Oubre is not going to take 20 shots in his first game back. But PJ Washington's maybe worth a look if you think he's going to keep getting 17 shot attempts per game.
Yeah, I know PJ Washington in the last 2 games. Okay, it was against Dallas, but I was watching the game, the first game in Dallas. I think he might have had a little extra pep in his step because he grew up in the Dallas area. So maybe something there. But again, without Gordon Hayward, like we mentioned here tonight, and possibly Kelly Oubre Jr. not playing here tonight, that I think PJ Washington is probably going to be that guy that gets up the shot attempts as well. Against the Thunder earlier this season, he did have 25 points in that game did PJ Washington, but also do like the look of Dennis Smith Jr.'s assist here tonight as well. So agreement there as far as player props. And again, you mentioned Nick Richards as well. Scott, I feel like I'm going to ladder his rebounds here tonight. Maybe up to like 13 or 14 here tonight, because again,
he should play 30 minutes. He should at minimum.
Yeah. But even with the guys like that do have out, right? Like I could still see a world where even if it is a blowout for the Thunder, that they still have Nick Richards in the game playing at that center position, whether it's him or who's the other guy that we mentioned?
Kai Jones.
Yeah, Kai Jones. But yeah, they are compromised here, are the Charlotte Hornets. You have anything else for this game, guys? I don't imagine
I got nothing.
Hornets team total under.
I don't hate it. I think it's a lower
either.
pace game, limited possessions. That usually bodes well for both team totals to go under.
I think I'd rather lean OKC team total under, because if I'm picking the Hornets to cover, I don't want to bet against the team that I'm picking to cover the spread. I think I'd rather hope that their defense holds their own.
Yep. All right. Anything else for this game, guys?
No, that's it.
Nope. All right, let's go. Let's move on to the next here. Excuse me. We have the Orlando Magic. They are headed to Memphis to take on the Grizzlies in this matchup. Currently, this line opened up in favor of the Memphis Grizzlies at -8.5. That number's now at -7 consensus. Total opened up at 234. That number's been bet down to 229. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, start here with Orlando. Pretty clean injury report. Jonathan Isaac continues to be out for the Magic. For the Memphis Grizzlies, John Morant is doubtful here tonight. I believe they're holding him out tonight in anticipation for tomorrow night. Steven Adams continues to be out. Brandon Clark continues to be out as well. And Zaire Williams is also out for this game for the Memphis Grizzlies with the right foot/ankle soreness. Let's start with the side here. Delonte, lead us off with this game. Memphis right now laying 7 points against the Orlando Magic.
Yeah, the movement on the number probably is like warranted, because Memphis is so good without Ja. Like, imagine if star player, any other team's star player is out, the line moves way more than a point and a half.
And they're at home.
Right. Against a team who's covered 6 in a row and who's on fire covering numbers, 21-16 ATS on the road. The defense is playing extremely well, allowing under 110 points in 3 of the last 5 games. I've been really impressed with what Orlando's been doing. Now, offensively, they still have a lot to be desired. Still bottom 5 in points per possession offense. They don't have any shooters, 24th in effective field goal percentage offense. They rely a lot on getting to the line, and Memphis doesn't foul. So I was hoping the line dropped a little more. I was going to play Memphis either way. I think it's a bad matchup for Orlando. I think Memphis wins by like 15-20. They're just on a roll as of late. And if you haven't, go get those Memphis futures, because I think they're going to be one of the teams that comes out of the West. Since Ja's been back, 125 plus in 4 of the last 5 games, or 3 of the last 5 games. I'm sorry, and they're just a machine right now. They've won 6 in a row, covered 3, pushed once. I think it's a home run spot for Memphis here, so I'll lay the points with Memphis.
This season at home without John Morant, 7-1 straight up, but just 4-4 against the spread. 4-3-1 towards the over for the Grizzlies without John Morant. Scott, what do you got?
For me, I think I'm going to lean Memphis as well. I thought about taking Orlando because I really do like what I've seen from that team. The problem is this team is still not exactly great at three-point shooting. Not just because of Banchero, by the way, just in general. They don't have many great three-point shooters. And that's a problem because Memphis does have Jaren Jackson Jr. They have a lot of good rim protectors. And if they can funnel, they can protect the middle and force Orlando to shoot a bunch of jumpers, I don't like Orlando's chances. And I feel like that's going to be the defensive game plan for Memphis. Meanwhile, Memphis offensively can come at you in so many ways. I think that they can end up overwhelming Orlando's defense by the amount of options they have. Delonte mentioned it, but I mentioned it on VSiN a week ago too. I think Memphis has a good chance to come out of the West, and I feel like they've been disrespected because of all the sideshow activities with Ja and how they were awful without Adams initially, and the Dylan Brooks stuff. I get it. They're not a fun team to root for. A lot of people hope they're going to lose in the playoffs because they can't stand them. But you're looking at the team's roster. Are they like the most versatile team in the league? Are they up there?
Yes.
It feels that way. I think they could give Denver serious problems because of how many different guys they have in the middle and how they can switch up lineups and how good they are even when Ja's not in the lineup. Their bench unit's very solid. So I actually like Memphis as well to have a serious chance to come out of the West. But for the sake of this matchup, I think they'll do a good enough job to protect the paint, and I think they'll force Orlando to shoot a bunch of jumpers, and Orlando is not really that good at shooting jumpers. I think it's a little bit weird that based on how good Orlando's playing, they're still getting 7. So it seems kind of trappy to dare you to take Orlando in a way. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to take Memphis. Orlando's been good, but they are still only 13-24 straight up on the road. I'm going to lean to Memphis here. I'll keep backing them at home.
Memphis in non-conference home games this season, 12-2 straight up, 9-4-1 against the spread, 7-6-1 to the under. Average win is around 11.1 points. Yeah, I think we've talked about it a lot with the Memphis Grizzlies, like what at home with or without John Morant, they've just been really good. Reggie pointing out when the Grizzlies are favored by 6 or more points, 20-1 straight up, 13-8 against the spread. So I want to see who they're playing tomorrow because I know they're on a back-to-back here. Let's see. They have the Clippers coming to town, but I don't know.
But Ja's going to play in that game, so that's kind
of but I don't want to say it was like a look ahead for the Memphis Grizzlies here tonight, but I'll lean with the Grizzlies here again at home. I can't argue against that. Let's go over to the total. Delonte, what do you got there? That number is currently sitting at 231.
Yeah, I'm kind of like torn on the total. I'd much rather the Memphis team total over than anything. I don't think Orlando will be able to have success in transition, which is where they're best at against the Memphis defense, who's top 5 defending transition. So I guess I would lean to the under full game, but Memphis team total over.
Scott, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to lean to the over in this one. I don't feel great about it because I just mentioned how Memphis's defense could create problems for Orlando's offense. But you're looking at Memphis's scoring numbers lately, and the team's been going nuts. I think you could see a bunch of points for Memphis as well for the team total. But the last game, 242. Game before that, 265. Scored 151 against Houston. Scored 130 against Houston the game prior. I see a bunch of points. At home, they've been so good at home. Just with their offense. I'm going to go with the over. I think you'll see a lot of points from Memphis in particular.
Yeah, Orlando's number 1 team towards the over in non-conference games this season, 20-9 at 69%. Memphis, not too far down the list, 15-11-1 to the over non-conference games, 57.7%. So yeah, I'll lean with the over in this game as well. I think I do like that Memphis team total as well to go over here tonight against the Magic. Player props, Scott, you looking at anything?
Tyus Jones double-double. I feel like it's always worth a look when Ja's not in the lineup. We know that he's a very good facilitator, very good point guard. I think he could start on some teams. I think he's that good. So I'd probably look for Tyus Jones double-double. I think that he's extremely unselfish. He'll be able to find teammates, and I do think he'll have a pretty good game here. I'm trying to think if I wanted to make a case for any overs for points for Memphis. Maybe I thought about Bane, but offensively, his points props a bit inflated. I don't think I'm going to take that. Jaren Jackson's a bit too inconsistent for me. I'm not going to make a Dylan Brooks case again. That was a one-time thing against Golden State, which got there. I'm just going to go with Tyus Jones assists. I think he's at a good spot for a double-double.
Plus 205 right now, I see, for his double-double.
It's a good price for a guy who's probably going to play 30 minutes if it's not a blowout.
Yeah. Delonte, player props?
I like Jaren Jackson Jr. to have a big game. The interior outside of Wendell Carter is kind of weak. So I think Jaren Jackson Jr., who's been playing really well offensively as of late, I think he has a big game, points, rebounds, and assists.
Jaren Jackson, I was looking at his double-double right now, is at plus 340.
Jaren Jackson?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Give me
the argument's that he never tries to rebound as much as he should.
That's the only thing
that
makes me nervous.
I'll take a flyer on that, plus 340.
He did have 10 rebounds against the Rockets in one game. Earlier matchup against the Magic this season, he dropped 31 in that game. That was back on January 5th, 31 points and 10 rebounds. So what is his points prop at? I think that might be worth a ladder here tonight.
I think it's 17.5 if I'm not mistaken.
The concern about the rebounds for Jackson, though, is he had 10 against Houston, but that game landed 255. So you need like a massive amount of pace to get more possessions for him to record those rebounds.
Yeah, now I'm looking at his game log. He hasn't had a double-double like that Houston game, he hadn't had one since Jesus.
It's been a really, really long time.
Yeah.
January 11th. Oh wow.
Yeah.
So maybe I see why it's 340. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even the 14th, he had 10 rebounds. He just only had 9 points. So yeah, it's been a long time. He's had one double-double in like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, I don't see his alt points either. I was probably going to ladder that up to around 25 or 30, but I'll try to dig that up. Anything else for this game, guys? Nope.
I don't have much.
All right, let's get. Oh, you got some, Scott?
No, I was going to wonder if you wanted to make a case for like Markelle Fultz.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. He's been playing pretty well for Magic. Let's just take a look here. So last 5 games, he's averaging 15.4 points. Assists have been there. I think that assist is what we probably want to look at. 7.2 assists per contest. Did have 9 assists against the Memphis Grizzlies in the earlier matchup this season. Also 2 steals in that game as well. So let me see what his assists are at right now.
I think the only concern I have for Fultz, which is why I kind of decided to stay away at the end, was the fact that Jalen Suggs is back in the lineup. And that's another guard that they have to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
No offense to Suggs, because he ended up making me some money on that bank shot against UCLA in college, and he was one of my favorite college players at the time. He really has not been good in the pros, and I think you make it a serious argument that they're better without him. Can I say that?
I think, yeah, they just have a logjam at that guard position, man. I don't know what it is.
Do you think they're better without him? Because when they give Fultz and Anthony more minutes, I feel like this team runs a bit smoother. I'm not sure what Suggs is doing on offense.
I don't know. I'm not a Cole Anthony guy.
I'm not a big fan of him either, but I think that in the smaller complementary guard role, he can give you something. Suggs is kind of like a jack of all trades but a master of nothing. I'm not sure what he really does well besides hustle. Does he really do much well?
I mean, if you hustle in the NBA, you're going to be in the coach's chair right next to him.
Ask Pat Beverly
out there.
Yeah, I'm just saying. So Suggs is back, which might take some minutes away from Fultz, so I think I'm staying away from him. Yep. But I at least wanted to bring him up because he has been good and productive.
Yeah. Yep. All right, last game of the night, gentlemen. We have the New Orleans Pelicans. They are headed to the Bay Area to take on the Golden State Warriors here tonight. This line opened up in favor of the Warriors, -9. That number is now up to down to -8.5. Total up at about 234. Consensus right now is 234.5. Do see some 235s popping up. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams. For the Golden State Warriors, Draymond Green is probable. Andre Iguodala continues to be out. Jordan Poole is probable as well. Pelicans did play last night, so no injury report submitted for them yet. But again, I think that everybody should be a go because no starters really played in that fourth quarter because it was a blowout against the Blazers last night for the Pelicans. Let's start with the side here, guys. -8.5. Delonte, why don't you lead us off with the Warriors hosting the Pelicans?
Yeah, I'm out on the Warriors. I've come to.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with them. Yeah, I can't. I watched that. Did you guys watch that Timberwolves game?
Of course I did.
It's pathetic. Yeah, I'm out on them. I can't do it. I love Steph. So I'm sorry, Steph. I can't. If you're watching this, I'm sorry. I can't do it. They're just too lackadaisical, like dumb turnovers. They can't rebound. It's just so much wrong with them right now. And this was at home. Like, I mean, so we know their road and their home and road dichotomy is big, but at home you don't expect those mistakes. I mean, they went down and had a possession had like 3 straight possessions where they turned the ball over with no pressure or anything. Like, so I'm out on them. Like, I can't do it. I can't lay this amount of points. Pelicans are playing well. They won and covered the last 5 games. They do struggle on the road, but that's, a totality thing. As of late, they've been playing extremely well. The defense and offense have both looked really good. Now, some of that's scheduling, some of the teams that they've been playing, and we all seen them obliterate Portland last night. Brandon Ingram has been playing extremely well. Jonas had 21 rebounds last night, if I'm not mistaken.
10 points, 21 rebounds, and 30.
Yeah, so he's going to dominate again tonight against the front line of the Warriors. Gobert had a really good game on the glass last night. Him, Naz Reid, and for whatever reason, Naz Reid turns into Kevin Garnett whenever he sees the Warriors on the schedule. But yeah, man, I like the Pelicans here. I'm out on the Warriors. I just wanted to let the world know that I'm done with the Warriors.
Scott?
I've been out on the Warriors for about 2 months, so it feels good. The more hosts are starting to move towards my side. I think Terrell's holding out on me though, so that's the one that's gotten away. We'll see if we can convert him to the anti-Golden State Church. But I'm going to lean to New Orleans here. I can't trust the Warriors laying 8.5 points. I understand scheduling spot-wise. New Orleans is traveling. It's a back-to-back. I get it. Valanciunas played 30 minutes. No other starter played more than, I think it was 25. So Trey Murphy played 28. So that was where it kind of topped out for the starters, but they were winning comfortably. That didn't really matter. But the point is, New Orleans has a length. They should dominate on the glass. Golden State turns the ball over a ton. They always did, even when they were winning games. With the point is the three-point shooting made up for it. This year, though, you're looking at what this team has struggled with, and they don't have the same bailout shot makers that they've been able to get away with in years past. And Clay is a big reason for that. I've roasted Clay for the entire year. He had a couple of big games, which I said was going to happen, and he played well when Curry was out of the lineup because he needed to step up. But you're looking at Clay and how he's played this season. Even the quote-unquote contest on that cat three-pointer to take the lead, where Clay didn't even bother to put a hand up on him.
Contest? He backed up. He was looking at him.
It was awful. And you can say, well, he was trying to protect the rim from who? Rudy Gobert running down the lane? He should have contested the three-pointer.
You'd rather give up the two. It's a tie game.
But the point is, you're looking at Curry. We know Curry's great. So he's still doing Curry things. Poole's, I really just can't get behind Poole, because I said it a couple of months ago, and I called it Jordan Clarkson syndrome. He can only go at 100 miles an hour. He can't slow down. He has to play at one pace, and he plays too fast all the time. And as a result, he's extremely indecisive. There's a lot of questionable decisions that he makes throughout the entire game. And we saw that he hit the big three-pointer in that Minnesota game. Then he immediately turned the ball over the next possession. And then it seems like through the entire game, you really can't trust him, because he can either A, take a bunch of really dumb shots, which he's capable of doing, or he turns the ball over a bunch, but he doesn't actually slow down when he needs to. And as a result, I think he messes up the overall just rhythm of this team. So I'm not a big Poole guy. Draymond can't shoot. Draymond offensively is a complete liability. And I just I didn't even mean the turnover at the end of the game when they had a foul to give, so he wouldn't have even gone to the line if they fouled him. So the whole thing didn't make any sense. But Draymond can't shoot. He gives you nothing basically offensively. And Clay, I mentioned before, at this stage in his career, he's a streaky three-point shooter. That's it. He still takes a bunch of contested shots that he shouldn't be taking. But the point is, I don't think Golden State's shot selection is very good as an overall team. And defensively, since Clay is nowhere near the player he used to be, and Wiggins is still out indefinitely, they can't guard anybody. So I see a lot of flaws with this team, and as a result, I'm going to take New Orleans, because I think that their length can give serious problems to Golden State. They're playing good basketball. Who's supposed to guard Brandon Ingram on this team, for example? Who's supposed to guard him? You're going to throw Draymond on him?
Yeah.
I'm saying then you got Valanciunas in the middle rebounding, and Herb Jones can at least pressure somebody on ball, make life difficult for at least one of Golden State's shooters. If I'm New Orleans, I put Herb Jones on Jordan Poole, because Poole's going to try to get his no matter what, and he's going to turn the ball over a bunch. Curry's going to do Curry things coming off of every screen imaginable. I'd put Herb Jones on Poole and let Poole self-destruct, but I'm on New Orleans. I kind of just ranted a lot because a lot of what I've seen has really just amplified as the season has progressed. Give me New Orleans. I think they got a shot to win the game.
Yeah. Before you go, Munaf, I just want to expand a little bit on Jordan Poole. I said this last year. I mean, obviously not up here, but I was talking to a bunch of people, and Jordan Poole he's a front runner basically for this team. When things are going well, he plays extremely well. But when
he'll hit the dagger three to put you up 15.
Yeah, right. But when you are down 6 or 7, and he's in the game with Steph and Clay, he's not effective at all. I think he has a negative plus minus with Steph on the court. How the hell can you have a negative plus minus with Steph Curry on the court?
Because he wants to get his.
Yeah. So I've been out on.
Do you agree with the Clarkson comparison? Clarkson's gotten better as the years have gone on in Utah. But when he was just starting out as a very high usage sixth man, he's just only looking for his shot all the time, and everything else is irrelevant.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've been out on him for a while, man. Anything bashing Poole, I'm with it.
Guys are crazy. Who are the Pelicans beat that have been really good?
Who the
Or
hell are the
above
Warriors
500.
beat?
Well, wait, so when you say really good, does
They're
that mean you're
good,
qualifying
not
the
really
Warriors
good.
as
I'll
being
say
really
good.
good?
I mean, they're the defending champs. I mean, there was going to be some regression with this team. And again, when you're
Some
missing,
regression. They're a playing team.
I mean, look, they've been dealing with injuries, right? We saw Steph Curry in and out of this lineup. They're
They were
missing
winning
their
without
best
Curry.
defender. They're missing their best defender with Andrew Wiggins. He's dealing with his personal stuff. But I'll just throw this out there.
For the record, they were winning without Curry. Can we at least get that on record?
What
Their
is their-
winning percentage was actually pretty
I'll
good
give you
without
that.
Curry.
Like they did have injury. I mean, Steph is a huge
Steph's a
component to what they
top
want to do.
3 player in the league.
Yes, he
Let's
is.
stop
But
it.
once again, they were winning without him. So I can't say that his injury is the reason why this team is struggling.
Pelicans this season on the road in conference games against teams that are above 500 are 1-9-1 against the spread and 1-10 straight up.
It's
They
about to be
just don't-
2-9-1.
They just they've just struggled. I mean, they don't play well against teams that are above 500. I'll choose my words wisely there before you guys kill me. I think I think they bounce back here tonight to the Warriors. Again, we talked about Minnesota. Like, if you take a look, ever since Cat came back, defensively they've been really good. I know early on in the season we talked about Cat and Gobert that it was just working offensively, but that was a really good masterful performance by the Minnesota Timberwolves. And again, the Warriors had the opportunity to win the game at the end, but if it wasn't for some bonehead turnovers. But again, on a back-to-back situation here for the Pelicans, man, I'm gonna go with the Warriors here. I feel like I'm gonna be the contrarian here and lay the points here with the Warriors. It might backfire for me. I'm sure by halftime or by end of 3 quarters, you guys are gonna be blowing up my phone and saying, "I hate to say I told you so." But until I see this Pelicans team beat a team above 500, at least I gotta go. I'm gonna go with the Warriors here tonight. I think this is a good bounce back spot for them.
The I told you so is going to be so fun when Golden State wins by exactly 8 points. Just never in doubt. Can't believe you laid 8.5 with the Warriors.
I'll
Do
late
you
turnover
have
by
Golden
Poole.
State's numbers ATS when they're laying like a pretty decent number? Because I'm assuming they're horrible.
I can try to dig that up. Give me a second.
I'm not sure if they'll give you an interval of 9 or maybe it's 10 plus, but I'm
Yeah,
assuming
it's
Golden State
kinda
is a
hard.
huge favorite. It's been horrible.
It's kind of hard to find those like
Yeah.
specific spreads, especially with varying from book to book.
I wasn't
You
sure
would
if it
have
was
to look at-
accessible or not. I'm just curious because you mentioned the Pelicans being bad in conference or on the. I get all that. I'm just saying Golden State laying big numbers. I'm assuming you've been hemorrhaging money if you've been backing that.
So let's see here. When the line is you wanted
It's
more than
8.5,
9.
but whatever's the closest number you can find to that in your database.
I think they're 32 and 33 straight up is what I'm looking. Or sorry, against the spread is what I'm looking at.
Okay, that's overall, but I'm saying if you could somehow filter out laying a decent amount of points, I feel like they're probably
Let me
really
see.
bad.
9 or more, they are 3 and 7 against the spread.
Okay,
6
it's
and
actually
4
not as bad as
straight
I
up.
thought it was going to be, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's for the season where they're laying 9 or more. So 10 or more points.
Yeah, I get it. You're fading
Yeah.
New Orleans because of their overall season numbers. I'm fading Golden State based on recent form and the fact that New Orleans, I don't want to say has turned a corner because I do acknowledge they've played weaker competition,
Mhm.
but maybe they
Yeah.
got their confidence back. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's a possibility. We don't have to agree on every single game. That's why our fans tune in to listen to us go back and forth. All right, so let's get up to the total in this game, guys. Scott leads off 234.
This one's very tricky because I just roasted Golden State's defense, but New Orleans has been very, very good defensively lately. So they also haven't played anybody. I think I'm going to lean under in this one. It seems a little bit high to me. All 3 meetings this season have had less than 220, and the total's 234.5. Like the 3 games that they've played, they're not even close to this number. I'm going to lean under. I think you'll see more of a defensive struggle. I think that with Herb Jones guarding whoever, and I don't know what Golden State's going to do defensively, but I'm hoping Kerr, or at least Golden State's defense has been a lot better at home than it has been on the road by a wide margin. Give me the under. When 3 meetings have gone under this number by double digits, I'm not going to blindly take the over. I got to go with the under in this game.
Delonte, what do you got for the total?
Yeah, I'm on the under also. Like you mentioned with the Pelicans defense, 7 of the last 10 that went under. I mean, like all 3 of us have been saying, the strength of schedule hasn't been the greatest, but got to give a little bit of credit to what the Pelicans have done.
They could have pulled it on the season.
Yeah, look, they're number one defensive rating over the last 10 games. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from them. It's just like
I wasn't saying
Yeah,
that. I'm just saying
yeah.
like some of the numbers they can be a little bit, it can be some noise in there just depending on
The
who you play.
Pelicans are only half a game behind Golden State. They could actually jump Golden State for the 7. They have a game in hand, but they can jump Golden State with a win here.
Yeah.
Now listen,
And Zion's coming back next week.
Is he?
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
No, I thought it'll be reevaluated at some point next week because that's the only thing that ever happens with Zion. He just gets reevaluated over and over again.
Yeah, but 22 of the 37 home games for the Warriors have went under. So I think both defenses will show up tonight. In stretches, I mean, Golden State will have stretches where they look like the champions from last year, but then they'll have stretches where they go 1 of 16 and turn the ball over 5 times.
They look like the Rockets.
Right. Nah, I probably look more like the Spurs.
You want to lay 8.5 points with a team that you just compared to the Rockets?
If this
Just
was
saying.
on the road,
on the road. Sorry,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
misheard you. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. So I'm on the under here. I think the defenses both come out and play. The only thing that scares me is the Pelicans could really dominate the glass, like put back after put back. Like that's the only thing that scares me. And if they're efficient there, I'm not sure. Guard play from the Warriors, it could be a lot better. And Steph didn't play his best. Clay didn't either. So maybe a bounce back game for both of those guys. But Pelicans usually do a good job of defending the 3. So I like the under here. But it does. I do have
Pelicans are number 1 in the league, by the way, in opponent 3-point percentage.
Yeah. So it's going to be a good test here for the Pelicans to see. And if you haven't, the Pelicans have like a top 5 broadcast, like home broadcast group. If you haven't watched any of their games, like
they're really good. I really like it. Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, I'll lean with the under as well. I mean, like you guys mentioned, Pelicans defense really good over the last 10 games, even since the All-Star break. Golden State defensively, at least at home, has been better, but I feel like this is a lot of points here, 234. And again, if you look at the pace numbers as well, Golden State is at number 5 as far as pace goes, but shockingly, the efficiency hasn't really been there. Pelicans pace number 16, so right slightly a hair below league average as far as pace goes. So I think we'll see something similar to the the Minnesota game, not with the turnovers, but I think that we'll see good defense being played here tonight because, and essentially you talked about it there, Scott, that this is almost like a playoff game because if the Pelicans win, they'll leapfrog the Warriors in the standings and go up to number 7, possibly even number 6, and be tied with the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Right now, this is the matchup for the first play-in game.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So if New Orleans wins here tonight, they'll get up to, I think, number 7-6. Yeah.
If they win tonight, they'll be tied with 6. Well, they'll be tied with Minnesota.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. So
do you think
but they have a game in hand? They do have a game in hand over Minnesota.
So you think the Warriors are like trying to get back to that 6th spot so they can get the Kings?
I think they want to avoid the play-in. I don't think that if you're involved in the play-in, you should be already trying to coordinate.
But the 6th seed is so it would be 3 and 6. So it would be if they get the 6th seed, they would play Sacramento theoretically.
Correct,
right?
but I'm saying I think they want to get the 6 because they don't want to play an extra couple games in a play-in tournament.
I get you.
That's the most important thing. The most important thing is to avoid the play-in, and then after that, you can worry about the seeding.
All right. So total player props. Delonte, lead us off.
I don't have many. Brandon Ingram, everything, points, rebounds, assists. I would bet him. If you don't like the PRA number, I probably would lean to the points and assists. But the rebounds, like we talked about, Golden State has struggled rebounding. Now Valanciunas, he can't get every rebound. I mean, so Ingram's going to be down there banging as well. So I like all Brandon Ingram props tonight. I would also look at Steph Curry overs. I think he has a really good bounce back game tonight.
Scott, any player props?
I'd have to look at Valanciunas props here for rebounds. You'd think historically he probably wasn't that great against Golden State because they tried to abuse bigger centers who can't exactly move on the 3-point line. But Valanciunas has killed this team over the past couple of years. He only played 23 minutes in the last meeting, but had 10 points, 13 rebounds. He had 8 and 6 game before that, 8 and 10. The games before that, though, he's absolutely killed this team. 20 and 15, 29 and 16, 19 and 15, 10 and 16, 31 and 19, 10 and 13. I think Valanciunas rebounds is the way to go here. I think he's going to have a good game. Besides that, I do think Curry's going to have a good game. I don't think New Orleans can really guard him. And once again, I think Herb Jones should focus more heavily on Jordan Poole, because if Poole's going to have a bad game, he might shoot Golden State out of the game by himself. So I'd probably look for Curry props here. I like him there. Trying to think if I like anybody else. Ingram, I have to like as well. You mentioned Ingram as well.
Yeah.
Maybe Herb Jones under for points. He puts so much energy into defense. I don't think he's actually going to attempt many shots, but I think it's mostly just Ingram and Valanciunas and maybe a little bit of Curry in there. But I do think that Valanciunas should have a massive game on the boards if he plays even 25 minutes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Was looking at Clay's threes here tonight. It means I'd choose to have minus 150 for 3.5, but he's had some success shooting the three ball against the Pelicans over his last 3 career games. These two teams did match up on March 3rd earlier this month, where the Warriors won exactly by 9 points.
Did Curry even play in that game?
Curry did not play in that game. Scott, are you going to come over to my side now for this game?
No, I'm not.
Were they on the road?
I'm just wondering.
No,
I'm pretty sure Curry hasn't actually played against the Pelicans yet this season.
Yeah, it was a home game for the Warriors without Steph Curry.
But I am going to mention that Valanciunas did not play in that game, so take that.
Yeah.
You know. Then Ingram was there?
Ingram was
Ingram did play, didn't shoot well, but played 38 minutes.
Yeah, that was ugly.
They're using Willie Hernan Gomez as a center. I mean, come on.
Yeah. 108-99 was the final score in that game without Steph Curry. All right, guys. Anything else for this game?
That's it.
Nope. All right. Before we get into our lock and dog here for tonight, let me tell everyone about Shady Rays. Summertime is right around the corner, and it's still cold in some parts of the country. So you need to head over to Shady Rays. They are they've got you covered from the sun to the slopes with premium polarized shades, customizable snow goggles, and much more. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. Durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. That's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by the lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us that they will send you a brand new pair, no questions asked. Wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. With Shady Rays, you can look good and feel good. To date, they have donated over 20 million meals to fight hunger with Feeding America. And if you don't love them, just exchange them for a new pair or just simply return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop with Shady Rays. Their team always has your back. So exclusively for our listeners only, Shady Rays is giving their best deal of the new year. Go to shadyrays.com and use promo code SGPN for 50% off of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Again, shadyrays.com, promo code SGPN for 50% off of 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. Try for yourself. The shades rated 5 stars by over 200,000 people. All right, guys, let's get into our lock and dog for the games here tonight. Delonte, lead us off with your bets here for tonight.
Yeah, man, it's short and simple. Memphis -7. I think they win by doubles here, 11 or 12 at the most. Hopefully they coast going into the fourth quarter with a big lead. I don't think they'll be able to – I don't think Magic will be able to get out and transition and run, which is what they want to do best. Memphis puts a stop to that. I think they win by doubles here at home. And for the dog, look, man, if I said I'm out on the Warriors, I got to put my money where my mouth is. So I'm going with New Orleans plus the 8.5.
All right. Good luck with you because you're going to lose that. But Scott, what do you got for your lock and dog?
All right. So for my lock, I'm going to go with the Hawks team total over. I believe that number is around, what is it, like 118.5, 119.5?
Let me see here. For the Hawks?
Yeah.
Full game, I see 119.5.
Yeah, so I'm going to take the over on that as my lock. I think the pace is going to be extremely just high, at least compared to what most people think. It mostly involves Cleveland being shorthanded defensively. And Jared Allen knows a great rim protector. Now they're going to have to probably go smaller, or they're going to have to use a backup center. And, of course, Allen's one of the best rim protectors in the league. Atlanta last meeting scored 136. And I do think that even though Atlanta defensively is a train wreck, I'll ignore that because I'm only taking the offense. But I do think at the end of the day, with Okoro being out, even though I'm not the biggest Okoro guy, because I like having all 5 players on the court actually have offensive talent, Okoro is their best perimeter defender by a wide margin. And Atlanta's a pretty heavily perimeter-oriented team. Whether it involves the DeJounte Murray, whether it involves Trae Young, all the pick and rolls that they run. I think Cleveland's defense is going to be a mess today because of it, which is why money has come in on Atlanta to such a heavy degree. I'm going to go with Atlanta team total over. I just think at the end of the day, you'll see a track meet, and I think Atlanta gets over 120 at home.
All right, and what do you got for your dog?
So my dog, I was tempted by the Hornets full game money line, but I am concerned about their second half offense and how OKC has been very good at coming from behind, especially late in games, because we know Shea is a very good closer of games. Give me the Hornets first half on the money line at plus 250. I see 250 is the best line right now. I'll take 250. But the point is, I think Charlotte can jump this team. Munaf mentioned before that the Thunder have the worst offensive rating in the first quarter, I believe.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I can see OKC struggling early on. Charlotte, once again, not a good team, but they try. And that means something, especially for teams that have players fighting for roster spots. Dennis Smith Jr. looks like he's trying to stay in the league, and he has a bit of a hunger to him that a lot of players probably wouldn't have at the stage in the season. But Charlotte just won 2 straight games against Dallas. They've played pretty well lately. Number 2 defensive rating post All-Star break. Give me the Hornets first half money line at plus 250.
All right. I have 2 picks that I really like as my lock.
Honorable mention, Nick Richards double-double as my honorable mention for the dog.
Yeah, I like that. All right, for my lock, I am going to go with the Celtics team total over 117.5. We talked about Washington has just really struggled defensively. Again, 3-point defense hasn't been there. We know that the Boston Celtics love to jack them up. They should be able to make them here tonight, especially when they're giving about 44% are the Wizards allowing from 3-point land. So I think they should have an easy time on offense here tonight. Should be at least at a 95 or 100 plus at the end of 3 quarters. If Wizards defense continues to be as bad as it's been over the last 5 to 10 games. So Celtics full game team total over 117.5. I was going to go back to the first half over in the Hawks and the Cavs game. I think that we talked about that at 121. Everything that Scott mentioned. Then we'll see some back and forth in this game. This totals continue to climb. I see it all the way up to 239 now at some spots. So first half right now, I see 121.5. It's officially 121.5 over on WinBet. So first half over there between the Cavs and the Hawks. For my dog, I'm also in that same game as Scott mentioned. I'm going to go with the first quarter for the Charlotte Hornets. That number is at plus 180 on the money line for the Charlotte Hornets in the first quarter against the Thunder. We talked about it. The last 2 games against Dallas, they took care of business. I know they're on the road here, but they also took care of business in that first quarter against Dallas, where I think they scored like 34 plus points against the Mavericks. I think that continues here tonight. Talked about how the Thunder have struggled in the first quarter offensively. This might be a game where Thunder pull away, like Scott mentioned, in the second half, and SGA and then company take over. But definitely keep an eye on if SGA is playing here tonight. He's officially questionable. But as far as my dog, yeah, first quarter money line plus 180 currently over on WinBet. Also, again, get down on that first quarter spread for the Hornets at plus 3.5 as well. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast for the Tuesday games. Nearly an hour and 45 minutes here. So always a great time chopping it up about the NBA. But Delonte, anything else we need to mention, my man, before we get out of here?
I don't, man. Fly, Pelicans, fly.
Yeah, we'll see about that. Scott, anything else you need to mention?
You can find me on Twitter, Reichel Radio. Besides that, did a tennis podcast last night. I should be doing one basically every day for the rest of the Miami tournament. So keep your eyes on that. I know later in the week, Terrell and I are going to be doing part 1 of our 2-part pre-draft win totals in the NFL. So keep an eye on that. Should be fun to go through, even though we don't exactly know who the quarterback's going to be for a couple of teams, but still. Besides that, though, keep an eye on those podcasts, but I'll be back later in the week, obviously, on this show.
Yep, tomorrow, Scott and Terrell will be on the show for the Wednesday games.
Yeah, later in the week, it's tomorrow. My bad.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, it's fine.
Later in the week on Friday as well. There you go. I'll put it that way for Scott, again, yeah, make sure check out the Tennis Gambling Podcast. Like Scott mentioned, he's absolutely been crushing it on the court there for the Tennis Gambling Pod. So definitely check it out there. Make sure to follow Delonte on Twitter at xxlanteXX. Follow me on Twitter at SportsNerd824. More importantly, before you guys get out of here, do us a favor, hit that smash that like button for us. And if you haven't already subscribed to the YouTube channel for the NBA Gambling Podcast, please do so. We're trying to hit at least 1,000 by the end of the playoffs. I know we're getting ever so closer. I think we're around close to 900. So hopefully we can get there by the end of the NBA playoffs. Follow us on Twitter as well at SGPN NBA. And again, if you haven't already left us a rating and review, whether you listen on Apple, Google, or Spotify, please leave us a rating and review. It really helps us grow the show, and be one of the best NBA pods out there. All right, like I mentioned, Scott and Terrell will be back tomorrow. Good luck with your bets here tonight. Let's break these books off and let it ride.